Okay, so the formal teaching for tonight, I call it navigating the voices in your mind. Now, this is for me, such a fundamental skill because I find for so many of us, and I jokingly said earlier in the chat here that, I joke with my students that the good news is you're not crazy, the voices in your head are real. So these thoughts or these conversations, like there's all these conversations or voices, right? Our thoughts, voices in our mind. And I find for so many of us, it looks like this, right? They're just this mush. And what throughout the years, and I've been doing this for 2 decades now and teaching for just as long, I've grouped them into four general categories. Now, why is this so valuable? Because I found, and once you take what I'm going to share with you, and again, I'll record this, it'll be in the resource library, if you will, if you want to refer to it again, is you can start to put some order and structure to what's going on up here. And once you're able to do that, you actually can introduce so much more clarity, I find. I want you to think of it as you're sitting in a restaurant, right? You're sitting in a restaurant and you can go, okay, so the people at that table, they're this, the people at that table are this, the people at that table are this. So it starts to give some structure. They're not all piled on at the same table, yours. And then from there, then you can choose, this is the table I do listen to, this is the table I don't listen to. This is how I manage the people at this table. So that's what I find is so much of the value in this teaching. All right, so without further ado, let's bring in Mr. Flipchart. There's Mr. Flipchart. Okay, so so any of our regulars, wake up, will know. So this is you, or I call it your I am. So your soul, your spirit, your higher self, whatever label suits for you. And there are basically four general categories of voices in your head. Now, the first thing to remember, and whoops, and this I found for me, we'll just fix this. There we go. When I first kind of wrapped my head around this, it kind of crossed my eyes a little bit because here's the thing. We're having a conversation in our mind all the time, right? There is a conversation between you and these guys all the time. Now, and often it seems like the ones that are talking to you, one of them is just using your voice, right? So here's the thing. So if you're having a conversation with somebody that requires two parties, right? Which one are you? Like, I know it sounds simple, but when you think about it, it's like, yeah, like which one am I? Well, this map, hey, Doradell, how you doing? This map will actually give you some structure to that. Okay, so here we are. Again, four common voices that are speaking, because this is you, and you're having a conversation with this one here, okay, or this group. Now, this one here I call the accuser. Okay? Now, how do you identify the accuser? Now, I'm going to give you how you identify it, and then I'm going to give you action steps on how you manage it. Okay? So, how do you identify the accuser? And remember, it's speaking to you. It's often initially in your own voice. Okay, so this is this voice talking to you. Now, this is an important clarifier. Remember how I said there's this conversation. So who's talking to who, right? There is you, and then there is the voice speaking to you. Now, how do you identify you? You're using the first person, right? So if you just think about this, you speak. It's like you. It's like I'm talking to you. I am. It's you speaking to the voice. That's you. Then there's these voices speaking to you. So the structure of this voice, it's like somebody talking to you, right? Now, I'll give you an example. What's the characteristics of the accuser? They usually come in hard, they come in fast, they're arrogant, and by definition, they accuse. Right? They say, what the heck are you thinking? This will never work. My goodness, what are you doing? And that often shows up when you're really seriously, you right, are thinking about introducing some significant change or taking some steps or doing different things like this, right? When you do that, they're going to speak this way and they're going to accuse. They're just arrogant SOBs, right? And they accuse. And what then they'll often do is they'll bring in evidence to support their accusations, right? They'll bring in your second grade teacher that said, well, you'll never be good at this. They bring in, maybe somebody in your peer group that said, well, this won't work if you tried this before. They will bring in memories and they'll say, oh yeah, remember the last time you tried this? It never worked then. It won't work now, right? They're just jerks. They're speaking to you, accusing you. Okay? They're definitely not edifying you, all right? Just so you know. They're speaking to you. Now, what's your action plan? Now, the first thing is no matter what they say, don't believe them. And they can make all sorts of logical sense, but don't believe them. And here's the thing, even if maybe it was true once, it doesn't mean it's true now. Okay, so that's your first action step. Don't believe them. Your next one is, as quickly as you can, refocus on where you want to go. Refocus on a direction you want to go. Refocus on a desire you want to manifest and start heading in that direction. Now, here's the thing. It doesn't mean that these voices will automatically disappear, but you don't have to focus on them. Okay, you see the difference? I'm actually going to draw this. Hold on. I didn't do a template for this one, so we're just going to kind of make this up. Okay, here's what I mean by this. Here's the accuser. Here's you, right? And here's this conversation. Now, this is going on. So what I want you to do is as effectively and as much as you can, I want you to focus on where you want to go. What's the desire you want to manifest? Now, it doesn't mean that this will automatically disappear. They may still be here and they may still be doing this, but you do not have to focus on them. That's the big difference, right? They may be still yapping at you, but you don't have to focus on them. That's why when you're looking for that desire, I call it in the manifesting classes, I call it your yum yum factor. The yum yum factor is whenever you think about that desire, it just really, really feels good. This is really good, right? And again, here's the thing to remember. It doesn't mean that accuser voice won't still be there, but if you don't focus on it, you're not giving it power. I'm just kind of jumping over here. I want to try and keep this concise as possible, but I love what you guys are saying. I'll just kind of cherry pick some. When this is, Rico says, tunnel vision to your desire. You bet. And again, the thing to remember, it doesn't mean those voices will automatically go away, right? But you don't have to focus on. Remember, whatever you focus on, you feed. Yes? Okay. How can you do this is so unconscious? Well, and I think I totally agreed. And I mean, it's not a switch like this or this. It's more like changing a habit, if I could put it that way. But for me, we don't want to feed it. I think that's the thing for me. And so often we end up actually agreeing with the damn thing, right? So what I'm saying is we want to do our best not to feed it and focus. Or another way, I've done this in trainings before, the accuser will usually be talking to you about what you don't want. Your desire is what you do want. So do your best to focus on what you do want. And I realize this, like, believe me, this is very much, you don't just perfect this and they never have to think about it again, right? So that's that. Okay. All right. So, okay, I'll just bounce to some questions real quick here, because again, I don't want to keep you guys too long. I'll just scroll through here. Okay. Okay. And I'm cherry picking here, right? Can you name all four before you explain them? Sure, I'll do that, Rico. You bet. Television to your desire. You bet. I wanted to build, anticipation, but sure, I'll do that. Is this safe? Of course, yeah, it is, 100%. Yeah. I feel like this is a cult. Yeah, no cult here, I'm afraid. No. I think that's the thing. I'm not telling you to do what I do. All I'm doing is sharing what I've learned. If it resonates with you, great. If it doesn't resonate with you, then don't worry about it, right? And that's what's so important. It's really up to you to take what fits and don't worry about what doesn't. And I think if we want to use the kind of the C word cult, and I'm not an expert at all, I think one of the characteristics of that is one person is saying, I want you to think exactly the way I think. And that's definitely not me. Right? I just share what I've shared. And if it fits, great. If it doesn't fit, that's okay. Okay, I just want to bounce down here. Okay, he's helping you focus on your goal with, okay. So I'm just, yeah, sure. I'm just going to kind of let you guys talk. Like I said, I'm not, I'll kind of hop in, every once in a while here, but I want to keep the teaching as concise as I can, and we can deal with questions later. But Rico, for sure, you're one of our regulars, so you get what you want. Our regulars, VIPs, right? Okay, so let me, well, shoot, hold on. Let me get back here. Where's my little eraser here? I'm going to get rid of this. So the accuser, right? Okay, let me get rid of this. And Rico, there's the accuser. Okay, you'll love this one. There's the voice of the worrier. There's the voice of the wounded. This is interesting. And there is the voice of the I am. All right. There's the four voices. Okay. The second one is, as I've said, the voice of the worrier. Okay. Now, the voice of the worrier, and this is really kind of interesting. Almost every sentence the voice of the worrier uses speaking to you has some context of what if, right? What you'll find is the voice of the worrier almost exclusively focuses on the future, not the past. See, the voice of the worrier basically is trying to spin a story of impending doom, and it's always focused on the future. Now, it might use references from the past to sort of validate its story. It's this calamity that is trying to project into the future, right? But it very rarely, if at all, is focused on the present moment. You see, this is really valuable because the voice of the worrier is a big one for so many of us, right? The voice of the worrier is projecting ultimate and complete calamity if you continue down this path, right? And here's the thing with the worrier. Now, so the accuser is in your face right now, poof, right? Here's the son of a gun with the worrier. It doesn't do that. It does this. It starts way in the background and it just goes, it whispers. Sorry, that probably made your speakers scream. You see, often you don't even recognize it until it's built up all this momentum and then it knocks you on your butt, right? So the way you identify the worrier, again, it's kind of like the sooner you can catch it, the easier, because it has less and less momentum. Yes, the worrier. I thank you guys for hopping in there. I appreciate that, right? And so for me, again, early detection, if you will, right? The other thing is, if you can, and you want to keep your balance with this too, right? If you're, do something to try and focus in the present moment. Okay, so here's the steps. Catch it as early as you can, identify it. What if, what if, what if, what if. Now, if you're kind of getting caught up in it, and it's easy to happen, what I want you to do is do the best that you can to focus on something in the present moment, something physical. Just do anything to try and break that cycle, because the momentum gets going and going and going and going and going, and then it just knocks you right off your feet. So the sooner you can, again, kind of try and break that cycle, or at the very least, focus right in on something physical, get your balance a little bit. What you will find when you can start to actually observe them, and this is what I found, is they're very, almost invariably, if you just, it's almost like, well, okay, so what, go ahead, tell me your story. Tell me your story, warrior. What do you think, right? Invariably, when you look at their logic, it just falls apart, because as I said, if you look at it, the chances of their calamity actually happening are so incredibly small, right? And so, again, detect it early as much as you can, stay balanced, stay in the present moment. And again, I mean, I'm not saying you're going to do this, I'm just going to switch 100%. You know, out of 10 times, you'll maybe catch it once, right? Detect it, you know what it says, what if, what if, what if. Do your best to stay grounded. And then, just like before, hopefully I didn't lose this other one. We could call this, same thing, we could call this the warrior. Put your direction on your desire. And see, it's always about, see, what they're trying to do is distract you, right? Get your focus back on what you want. Okay. And I'm kind of seeing some stuff going on over here, but I want to be concise in this, and then I'll jump and I'll kind of scroll down here. If there's anything directly related to this, then I'll try and answer that. Other than that, I'll just hop over later. Okay. So first one is the voice of the accuser. Second one is the voice of the worrier, right? The third one is, and you guys kind of know this already, but go away, is the voice of the, the voice of the wounded. Now, okay, the voice of the wounded. So for you folks that have any type of energy healing or anything like practices like this is a really handy one where you can use these skills. You don't have to do this in order for it to work. But see, here's the thing with the wounded. It often is triggered or initiated by a memory, right? The stimulus can come from the physical, but it's going to trigger a memory, and it's going to trigger a memory that has a charge to it. There you go. Sacred beauty warrior. Voice of the wounded is past. There you go. Well, that was perfect. So, and like I said, I will jump over here. I appreciate you guys all hopping in here, so I will get to this. I want to, as I say, keep this concise as I can, and then we'll hop over and have some conversations. But so it's often triggered from something external. It brings up a memory, and it's what I call a charged memory. So what is a charged memory? A charged memory is when you think of it, you feel, ooh, right? So I'm not even going to use the word emotion here. Let's keep this something we can really identify. It's a memory that when you focus on it, it physically doesn't feel good. That's what it is. Okay? So for me, I try and picture it in my mind as, think of it as a wounded child, right? It's a wounded version of yourself in many ways coming to you to be healed, to be released, to be reassured. You see, so the wounded child may come to you. And again, these voices may not all be like totally isolated. They can kind of blend together, right? But the wounded child is one that's just, they're afraid, right? They're afraid of the future. Maybe they're afraid. So the voice of the accuser is just an asshole, right? The voice of the warrior, as I said, right, is the what if. The wounded child is just somebody that's kind of afraid. So if you think about it that way, how would you interact with a child that's afraid, that's coming, wounded child is afraid, yeah, that's coming to you with this fear? Well, here's what you wouldn't do. You wouldn't do, oh, just stop that, right? But here's what you also wouldn't do. You wouldn't do, oh, yeah, gee, that's right, oh my God, right? What you're going to do is you're going to reassure it, right? And if you have any energy healing techniques that you can use, this is where you can really apply those, because again, it's a wound that is looking to be healed, right? So for me, when that comes up, I understand it's like a wounded child, and I'm going to reassure it. I don't buy into its fears, but I'm also not going to ridicule them. And then, as you've guessed it, right, as quickly and efficiently as I can, in this case here, this is a wounded child, refocus on your desire. You see, every one of these, the end result is, or your last step is, get focused on where you want to go and start moving towards it. Okay? The fourth voice. Oh, shoot, I know this one, I want the other one. The fourth voice, as you guys have already said, but here is the I am. Now, God, source, universe, whatever label you want to use, I call it the I am, right? How do you identify the I am? So here's some characteristics of it. First of all, it's none of them other three, right? The second one I find is it never demands, it often suggests, right? It never gives ultimatums, right? It's very much a suggestion. It doesn't shout, it doesn't yell. It's that the proverbial still, quiet voice. It's very confident, right? It will simply suggest, it will edify, right? It's often very present moment focused, right? It often talks about to you, and think about this, a wounded child, it often talks to you like you just talk to your wounded child, right? It encourages, it suggests. It's not like, again, it's not like ultimatums. It says, like do this, and if you don't do this, it's going to happen, right? Sacred beauty warrior took me a while to learn that. I love that. That's cool. It just kind of offers, right? It doesn't stir up, often it won't stir up any emotions because it's very, very still, right? They're very peaceful, but very, very confident. Now, what do you do when you hear that voice? You listen and you act, right? Because that is the voice, I call it the I am, or the voice of the inspirer. When you hear that voice, listen to it, trust it, act on it. We have these desires. I need some direction. I want some direction. I want to manifest these things that taught us to be miraculous, and they don't know how it's going to happen. Blah, 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 blah. That is often your shortcut. In the manual, I talk about how the voice of the inspirer is often is like a shortcut to a miracle. Right? When you hear those voices, or that voice, right, you listen and you act. All right. I've got one more voice I want to talk about, and it's the common denominator in every one of these conversations. You probably guessed it already. It is this. There is your voice. I call this your power voice, your I am voice, or your creative voice. When you speak out, when you speak, I am, and you guys have heard this 100 times. You guys, I love it. You just kind of fill in. That's perfect. Sacred Beauty Water, I am. It helps rewire our system, our thinking. That is so true, right? It's your creative voice. See, that's why when that accuser shows up, you tell it to screw off, right? You use your power voice. Don't let it assume your voice. You have your voice. We have creative power, 100%. You can choose. Do I focus on the accuser or do I focus on what I want, right? The voice of the worrier, right? You have your power voice. You can take authority over that, right? No. I talk about often, no is a really powerful pivot word, right? No, I'm going this way. No, I'm going this way. No, I'm going this way, right? Same thing as with the wounded, right? Your I am voice is your confidence voice. Right? See, that's why, and again, it's like it's cliche, but it's so true. You've heard it, I'm sure, seen it on pictures all over the place, right? Your I am voice, right? Whatever comes after when you say I am, whatever comes after that's your creative voice, all that kind of stuff, right? Think of that as your power voice. When you speak I am, you are creating. Right? Okay, I'll just bring it back up like this, right? The four voices. Just like so. Remember, we're having a conversation. Well, come on, conversation with these all the time. We know the four voices, and we have our I am voice.